A very good evening and welcome to all our audience to Gurushala Samwad. For today, we will be talking about how to overcome exam fear among students. So, like we all know, exam and exam fear is a very prevalent topic these days. And we will talk more about this. We will understand more about exam fear and how to overcome it from today's guest that we have. So I'll quickly tell you about us. So Gurushala is an initiative of Indus Tower Limited and Vodafone Idea Foundation. Our content partner is Jigyasa, and all our activities are implemented by Pratham Education Foundation. And now, if I introduce our our guest here, this is Miss Hia. Uh, so, I would ask Miss Hia to tell us about herself, please.
Hi Anaga, and thank you so much, Gurushala and Anaga, for for allowing me to be here. All right, so I have been working as a communication specialist and more so as a professional development coach. And I also have an Instagram page where I'm trying to promote, fun learning skills that would, enhance someone's overall development, especially for individuals and professionals. So that's what I do. Thank you.
Yeah. So now we will move on and we will talk about the topic. As we all know, exam and exam fear is very, very prevalent right now, especially because of the month that we are in. We are in March. Everybody is having their exams or about to have their exams now. So we will start talking on the topic and see what we have first. Right? So, yeah.
So Anaga, as we are talking about exams and everything, but that brings
Mhm.
me to the topic, that why, that there's so much of fear and stress associated with this word. So why not we go back to, what comes to our mind when we think about exams? What pops up. So for instance, let's prepare a mind map, when we think about school. What really
Mhm.
comes up in our mind? It's an educational institution, it's a place of
Mhm.
learning. So it's like, where somebody, we would be growing, so we would be learning a lot of things. It's like a professional personal development stage for each and every student. And then, when we think about students, then if we prepare, some sort of mind map over there, so it's more like uh, assignments, projects, doing extracurricular activities, being participating in different things. So it's, this all things comes up when you talk about school students. But then at the same time, it also comes down to, preparing for exams, because that's how your entire school life depends. It revolves around preparing for exams, getting better at different subjects. It becomes a base at what you want to achieve in life, what you would like to pursue in life. So but when we think about exam, what really pops up in your head? For me, it was, initially, if I talk about myself, it was always doing better, scoring good marks. How was it for you?
Like back when I was in school, even I used to be very anxious. Like, how much would I get, or how much is if my friend is scoring better than me, then I would be a little upset. I used to think like that as well. So yeah, stress, I agree, is a very common thing that comes to us as students or as children, uh,
Yeah.
like in our
And
times.
correct. And like, if I have to tell about my thing, like let me take you back to the time, when I was studying, because all our lives, at
Mhm.
some point we have all been students. And back when I
Right.
was in my school, I come from a really privileged background. So that was a thing, that it helped me a lot, because my parents never forced me or pressurized me, for scoring good, or being
Mhm.
competitive. But when you come from a background, where there is no pressure, no sort of pressure on you, you want to do your
Mhm.
best, because there's no sort of
Yeah.
expectations from you, so you want to outperform yourself. And that always used to motivate me, to just do good, because I want to do it for my own self, not because somebody
Mhm.
else is pressurizing me, or my peers or my friends are doing better. But at the same time, when I used to watch my friends, they used to struggle because they had siblings. They had to go through constant comparison with siblings, friends. So I really want to bring this to, in today's time I still see a lot of parents not helping students understand. And because we have an audience where teachers, students, everybody are there, right? So I want
Mhm.
everyone to know that from that thing, I want them to know that it's not just a sheet of paper cannot decide how your future would
Right.
look like. It's more
Mhm.
about learning. It's like what you will learn throughout your life will actually decide what you would achieve. So from this, I
Right.
also I think of like in today's time, AI is a thing. It's a big thing, right?
Right.
And it is basically a replacement of every possible thing you can think of. So with this, I really want students, teachers to understand that when technology, it's just not revolutionary, but it's going to change the way we are thinking of life right now. So
Mhm.
at this point also, your skills, what you have learned so far, is only going to set you apart, that not
Right.
even your technology can do, because at the end you have to operate that technology. If you have the skills, you know how to operate it. So focus
Mhm.
on learning, focus on what you're going to get through it, more on the input rather than the output, because everybody focus on what I'm going to achieve from it. But it should also be like how I should learn this, that it stays with me forever and I can use it for my own good, what actions I can take from it. I believe
Mhm.
that kind of learning should be pushed in today's schools and in culture, in the culture, whole educational culture.
Right. So I agree with you. Like nowadays, even if you do not have a sibling, the peer rivalry or the peer pressure is so much that everybody wants to be better than the other. And in
Right,
this process of trying to beat each other, they are completely losing the fact that they are studying something, or they are reading something to gain the knowledge from it, and not compare themselves to someone else. So
right.
that comparison is becoming so toxic that the learning is going missing somewhere.
Correct, correct.
Right. So that, with, just because we are talking about comparison and all the pressure that comes with comparison, what do you think
Yeah.
is the impact that is young mind is facing these days?
So, as I told that because there's a lot of competition, among students these days, because every
Mhm.
other one, wants to do something better, not them better than themselves, but how their friends are doing.
Mhm.
Everybody's in a rush to achieve something. So in today's
Right.
mind, I just want to say, there are like different ways on how we can, deal, or you can ways to overcome, fear. Because exam, if I tell
Mhm.
you, I was surprised, when I was just looking, we were preparing for this topic. I just came
Mhm.
across this really fun, phrase, which is examophobia. I was not sure,
Right.
if anything like this existed, but there's a thing, because it's a very common phenomena, these days. Students are so
Mhm.
much stressed about, they get worried very easily just thinking about the grades, how they would perform,
Mhm.
fear of failure, anxiety. This has become a constant thing in today's youth, because everybody, they do not get the right kind of support they need while preparing for
Mhm.
exams. So rather, certain
Right.
measures should be implemented. They should be given the right kind of guidance on how you can prepare, so that they don't have
Mhm.
to go through this kind of fear. They don't have to worry a lot, because at the
Right.
end, exam cannot be a thing determining, it cannot be a determining factor, right? It
Right.
is just a paper just to test your knowledge, just to understand how far you've understood, learned things.
Mhm.
So
Right.
if I jump onto the place where we can talk about how to deal with exam pressure, I would always start with there needs to be a set pattern. They need to develop a studying habit,
Mhm.
where there's a proper schedule in place. They learn time management, they learn different sets of things, that how to
Mhm.
they can prepare, going through last year's exam papers. They can
Mhm.
practice reading, because reading is very important. You have limited time period, you have to go through the entire paper at once. Pick up the questions
Mhm.
that the best, start answering.
Mhm.
That would just boost up the confidence. So
Right.
there are certain measures, we can all start taking, and as teachers, they can start promoting these, during the classroom sessions, to make sure
Mhm.
that students can also do it. Apart
Mhm.
from all of these, there are still different ways we can talk about it. For example, we have for example, in a classroom activity, there are group study sessions that you can conduct. You
Mhm.
just make sure that everybody is aligned and not everybody is just focusing on scoring best. Everybody is
Right.
learning something. They can have an interactive session within the classroom, just to make sure
Mhm.
that everybody on the same page. And apart from
Mhm.
that, if I have to talk about parents, we can
Mhm.
always say that at home you can also create a very healthy environment during exams.
Mhm.
They can because just preparing for exam is not enough. You also need to eat good food, get enough sleep, because those are invisible factors which actually contributes on how we perform during the exam. So that's really important.
Right. So, what else do you think, a child or a student should keep in mind, while thinking about this entire procedure of making a timetable or schedule? Because, like, even if we create schedules, it's not possible to always, have a proper schedule and stick to it. Like,
Correct.
making it is one part of the job, and sticking to it is, I think, a greater part of the job. So, what do you
Correct.
think we can do about that?
So as I said, because I see this a lot of times, so the best way,
Mhm.
to do anything is, to have something prepared well in advance. For example, you know that you
Right.
have your exam, in set time period. So you
Mhm.
always need to make sure if there is an exam coming up, how you would prepare about it. Maybe you can start dividing the modules, the syllabus. For example, you take
Right.
some few topics for a day, then you would start preparing for other topics later on. So that's
Mhm.
one way to go about it. Other ways would be to get involved with your teachers, be in a one-on-one session, practice more and more, during your
Mhm.
breaks, so that you exactly know, where you're going, where you're leading with examination. And it should always not be about just doing their best or just scoring. It should also be about what you're doing to make sure, because at the end, when you don't score good, you should still feel satisfied because you had put your efforts into it. There was some
Right.
kind of preparation that you did. So that kind of mentality needs to be developed in students. And
Right.
that can only be done when parents and teachers, everybody, they are making sure that students are not just restricted to scoring good, because that's one part of the
Mhm.
exam, right? But the other part is actually what they're learning from it, what they're going to get from it. So that kind of mentality needs to be developed from a very early stage, I believe. That's why I see a
Mhm.
lot of new schools, they're not focusing on, they're not taking regular exams. Like we used to have weekly tests back then. I'm sure you also used to have
Yes.
weekly tests.
Yes.
Every Tuesday we
Mhm.
used to prepare for one single subject for the 25 marks. So I'm
Yes.
sure all of these things are changing, because they are understanding. It's more about what children are learning practically, how they can
Mhm.
implement that in their real life. So not just about
Right.
following a set timetable, but making sure that you already have a set mindset, that you just have
Mhm.
to focus because you have an exam to give. But what are you going to get out of that exam? You want to learn.
Right.
You want to understand, acquire knowledge. That should be the agenda.
Right. So I can see a lot of teachers are wishing us good evening. So good evening to all teachers. Please let us know what you feel about this session. If you have any doubts or any questions, if you want to like know about anything else, you can type us on the comments and we'll talk about it. Yeah, as we can see, we have been talking about peer rivalry, और फिर हमने बहुत सारी बातें की कि एक स्टूडेंट की लाइफ में कैसा इमोशंस अप एंड डाउन करते होते हैं थ्रू आउट द ईयर. So during the exam they have a different emotion, during vacations they have a different emotion. So now we will uh, try and understand, how all these things are related and how they affect the life of a student. So yeah, if you could tell us here.
Yeah, so for example, as you rightly said, that students have different kind of emotions, during the different period of time. So for instance,
Right.
during the exam they're always anxious. It's very hard, to find students who enjoy the exams. I'm sure you
Mhm.
must not have met anybody. Like, it's still, I'm still waiting for that good opportunity, where I would meet students who
Mhm.
are excited about the exams. Because excitement,
Right.
exams doesn't go hand in hand. It's a very two different subjects. But I
Right.
want to see this because for instance, when we talk about vacation holidays, that's a
Mhm.
different level of enthusiasm they show. But exams, because from the start, like how they have been teaching subjects in the school, what kind of things they deliver in the school time, right? It's a matter of how you deliver things at the end. Because if you're made to make them understand that this exam is for your betterment, it's not your testing period, how well you would do in your life or how well you have scored. That would just show that how you can be contributing to the exam, and just overall what you would be getting out of it.
Hmm. Right.
So
So, like, what do you think? If they are, so worried about the exams, and so this is a very normal thing that comes to them. So, how to
right.
not normalize this? Like, how to like prevent it, or at least find a way to reduce it?
So firstly I would suggest start from the school. This exam thing should start from the school. So for
Right.
instance, there would be some self talk that students can start with themselves initially at home,
Mhm.
right? We could
Right.
give them a positive pep talk that this exams are for my understanding of my knowledge, and what I will get
Right.
from it, what I will learn from it. The other would be reaching out to their teachers, to their tutors, parents,
Mhm.
while they are facing some kind of difficulties. And the
Mhm.
most important factor would be to acknowledge what you're feeling. So if
Right.
you are anxious about it, if you're anxious, you don't know why you're feeling that, if you're scared about the exams, you need to address
Mhm.
it. There's no point of being in denial, right? If you're
Right.
feeling that way, it's good that you express it, so that somebody else can help you, that why you're feeling in a certain way. There would be
Right.
some ways on how you can deal with it. So the best
Mhm.
ways would be to address it in the beginning itself, so that there are better ways to prevent it from happening, because there should not be
Mhm.
some kind of phobia that students should cultivate into themselves, that
Right.
there's an exam coming up, I have to study, what am I going to do, I don't want to enjoy. They would be like they would be active all night studying, and then they would wake up the next morning. So the entire schedule will be messed up, because they would not have
Right.
a set routine, because they are very much scared of this exam. So that's
Yeah.
how they can go about it. They
Mhm.
can start doing some recreational activities, start enjoying to music sessions. They can jam during with their friends, family. They can start doing some meditation activities to soothe their mind, because I see a lot of people not doing meditation, yoga, and that's very common, I believe. In fact, if I have to talk about both of us, I'm not sure we are very active into some kind of physical activity, but that is something that really soothes your mind. So we should start promoting that. And on from school
Right.
level, it's really good if schools can also start doing these kind of things with students, where they involve such students in practices.
Obviously. So all of these things are very, they are not paid much heed about, but I think this should become a common practice these days, right? So with that, I think we have a question from a sir. Said sir is asking us a question, so if we'll quickly take it up.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So hi Sai, thank you for asking this question. All right. So as I was mentioning earlier, the best way if you're a tutor, if you're a teacher, then this would be a best advice for you. What you can start doing is you can start talking to your students, or in general just have a talk with them. Or for example, if you are studying yourself, this is the best way. Go through the entire material, understand your difficult topics. For example, there
Mm.
are different subjects that you have to go through, right? So you might be good at few subjects, and you might not be that strong in certain subjects. So start picking up subjects that you're good at, right? So that will just instantly boost your confidence, because you already know that you'll be doing better. And when you receive a question paper, for example, during the examination, when you receive a question paper, go through the entire question paper once, read out all the questions at one go, because that will make you understand which questions to attempt first. Because the questions that you know the answers to, you'll be able to write them thoroughly, and you that will also give you a confidence to attempt different questions. Keep guessing, and the best way would be practice and prepare from last year's question papers. Reach out to your teachers and seek their help. Understand what pattern are going to be asked in exams, so that way you can start doing it. And apart from that, as I said, exams should not be the only factor deciding your scores. That cannot be the only factor. There is a lot that you can take from it. So just practice good music, eat good food, be in a proper practice, develop good studying habits that would always keep you aligned. Because in the end, what you need to remember is where your interest lies, where you're inclined to, because that will help you understand what you want to do in your life. Yeah. Anaga, you're mute actually.
Yeah, right. So, thank you for your question. I think we will talk about the other thing now that obviously is very, very prevalent and common with our topic today is this examophobia. So, examophobia, please tell us about it and what do you think it is?
So, as I was mentioning earlier, examophobia, it's a very fun term. I found it. So when I was just, going through it, I was just, it's basically like a, mental disorder like found in students these days, because they are worrying too much about the exams. So now they have become so scared that like this term has, prevailed in today's world. So
Right,
how students can, go about it is basically you need to understand, what sort of exams you have to give. For example, right now it's boards exam time, right? It's March. So a lot of 10th and 12th students are going through their board exams. So board itself is a very it's a term which would give you anxiety at any point of time. Even if I'm
right.
today thinking about how I gave my board exams back then, I know I was all mad. I am sure my entire family was going through a mess because all everybody would be away studying, not sure how to. And also there's this term that you can't reappear. You have to repeat your entire year if you fail your board exams. So
Yes,
understanding, that why, if a certain exam you have failed, understand the reasons, what are your weak areas, start preparing on it beforehand. And always
right,
keep this thought in your mind that this is not going to decide. I
right.
have been a working professional for the last 5 years. I have changed different jobs, but nobody till date has asked me what I scored in my maths exam in 10th standard or 11th standard. Nobody's going to ask me. It's I who is going to represent myself, what I'm going to speak. So you need to understand, what you are more likely to do in your life, what really interests you. That way you can start
Right.
preparing yourself.
Yeah, I agree. Like the gravity of this term exam depends and varies from the kind of exam that we are appearing for.
Correct.
For example, if someone is going to appear for CAT examination, they will be very, like, they will be in utter distress. But similarly, if that same person is appearing for any other exam, which is not that important to that person himself, then his or her reaction would be completely different.
Correct.
The
Because they
importance
would
of
know.
the
Yeah.
right, the importance of the exam to that person is what makes that person anxious or not anxious. That's just what matters, right? So we'll move on, and now we'll talk about the next thing that is very, very important: how we can help with this. Like, since exams will be happening, they have been happening all throughout our lives, and they will be happening again and again, even after we stop becoming students, even after we go forward in our lives and start becoming professionals. We will keep have like we will have to keep giving exams. So, like, as teachers or as parents, what do you think, like, how they can contribute and what they can do for their children?
So initially, if you are a teacher, if you are a professional, and you belong to this field, my only advice would be to identifying the root cause. It's very imperative, it's essential to understand where is this coming from, the phobia, the term, the terminology fear. How is this even existing in students in today's time? Like, how are they being taught? Is there some problem that students are facing? Are they going through some difficult subjects that they're not sure of, how would they perform in that particular subject? So it's basically identifying, and also understanding that are they comparing themselves with their friends, maybe that some kind of friends, they are performing subject A, they are not scoring that well in subject A. So identifying, because you're a teacher, you're going to spend the most of your times with your students. So that's a very
Mhm.
nice way to understand where exactly their problem lies. Are they afraid of exams? Are they afraid of not scoring good? So what makes them
Mhm.
anxious? That's one thing you need to understand. Next, what you
Right.
can do is you can start preparing strategies for effective preparation. So for instance, as
Mhm.
I was mentioning earlier, we can always
Mhm.
start developing good studying habits. From we already have a schedule well in advance when your exams are going to take place. So prepare a routine, how we want to go about it, which subjects we have to start taking, which subjects you want to start preparing in the end. Like, for example, if I'm good at one subject, how I would, go
Mhm.
about it. Or if I'm
Right.
preparing my difficult subject, I'll take up, the easier topics from those difficult subjects to make sure that I perform well. That way, we can always go about it. Then the third point would be, as I mentioned, we can start practicing relaxation recreational activities at the school level.
Mhm.
So if you
Right.
are a teacher, what you can start doing is you can start taking up students, making them involved in some kind of group activities, group discussions where students would sit together, they would discuss about certain topic, they would pop
Mhm.
up questions to each other, and they would start preparing. So that's how we can go about it. So that is also one way of doing it. Other, as I said, we can start addressing the concern for exams, like also understanding what makes a student anxious about the exam, acknowledging their fear, and
Mhm.
making them comfortable about it, that it's okay even if you fail, it's okay, it's not a problem. And believe me,
Mhm.
just giving this kind of affirmation to somebody that it's okay, it's fine, it's not a big deal, even if you fail, it's fine. So that is something that just generally gives some kind of soothing effect to your mind, that it's okay, I'm not done a crime, I'm not a criminal if I failed in one subject, if I scored lesser marks. So that just gives them instant gratification, that it's okay, I'm not done something wrong. So we can, as
Right.
teachers, we can start doing that, because students would look up to their parents and teachers. The first thing they would look up to is them, to understand and learn from them, where I might have done better, what I could have done better, just to make sure I perform well.
Mhm.
So these are different things. And as I told you, if we as teachers keep practicing such things in their school level, that would just
Mhm.
instantly boost up students confidence, in making sure that they deliver to their best, and they
Right.
feel satisfied that they have given the 100%, it's okay, I
Mhm.
could do better next time.
Yeah, but I completely agree with you that the most of the time everything that a student needs to hear is it is okay. But
Correct.
barely there are times when people will go forward and tell them, yeah, it is fine, you have done, you have not performed well in a subject, and it is okay, you can do it again, or you can prepare better next time, or learn from your mistakes, or now that you have failed or you have performed badly, you know where your weaknesses lie, so you can work on that. It's barely these days people talk in such a how do I call it, uh, good way, because even though it is not a very big thing to say, it is the right thing to say, and that is what is being missing these days. So apart from that, like you just said, giving positive affirmations to your students is very very helpful. So apart from that, what else do you think can teachers do, like a very tiny activity that teachers can perform with their students that can help them?
Yeah. So, for instance, like what we can do is, because, we are talking about what activities students and teachers, can enroll. So, for example, students are spending their lot of time, at school. So, what
Right.
schools can start doing nowadays, they can start, preparing some kind of programs, seminars, for students, just for educating them that, exams are coming up. So, how we can prepare well on it, what are different steps you can start taking, how what should be the way you should be preparing for exams. So maybe that kind of
Mhm.
sessions can be conducted at school level. If
Mhm.
you're back home, parents can start giving them that making them understand exams are coming up, so how they should be schedulizing the entire routine. Because during
Mhm.
exam times you should have a different set of routine, right? You should be eating right so that your brain stays healthy, you can retain whatever you're memorizing, it stays with you longer. Because we don't want students just to focus on rote learning, just pushing them
Right.
कि ये पढ़ लो ये कर लो, बिकॉज तुमको रट्टा मार के बस एग्जाम देनी है, उसके बाद भूल जाओ. We don't want to promote such practices. We want them to understand what they're learning. So
Right.
the best way would be to push them to understand and make a good routine for them during the exam period. That's what parents can make sure that happens. And apart
Right.
from that, in school level, I would suggest teachers to start taking up some good classroom fun activities. For instance, they can start with scavenger hunt. So when I talk about fun activities, we are talking scavenger hunt. We know how fun it is, to just go find clues. Now, in this case, what teachers can start doing is they can, leave clues in those, educational clues related to the syllabus. So, they have to set teams. They can start preparing teams. They could differentiate, and all the different teams would start, picking up clues based on what they have prepared. So that would
Right.
also give a different kind of, that would stay with their memory, because when you visualize something, when you picturize something, and when you have to put that with something learning material, that stays with you longer. And that's how your
Right.
brain works. It doesn't remember all the text, but it remembers the pictures, because we have visualized it that way. So we can start
Right.
with scavenger hunt. Teachers can start doing that in the classroom. They can start doing role playing activities, to make it more fun and lively. For instance, they would
Yes.
have some kind of sessions, where that topics would involve some kind of role playing. So they can start with those kind of sessions to make sure that students remember, what they are learning at that point.
Right.
uh, Teachers can even start preparing, quizzes, online quizzes on Kahoot. There's an application exclusively, for teachers available. You can do that. So start preparing quizzes, and your teachers can start doing something. For example, कुछ बच्चों के लिए they have performed really well, तो मैं आज अपनी तरफ से उनको there will be a treat from my side, something like that. So that would
Right.
just encourage students to participate. They would want to involve themselves into it. So that would be a way, where teachers can start preparing some fun quizzes for them that would directly relate to the study materials that they would have. That would just help them remember and retain in their memory whatever they have prepared so far. So that could be
Exactly.
one way. Apart from that, there would be different, they could divide the students in different groups, and they would give a certain topic to a certain group of students, and they have to come and present those topics. Because when you prepare or when you teach somebody else, you remember better.
Yes.
So अगर मुझे कुछ डिफिकल्ट लग रहा है तो आज मैं अनागा को वो पढ़ा दूंगी. So I know I'll remember that better. So that is how they can start doing it. So that, like, these are little practices which will help students in not just
Right.
feeling some kind of pressure, but they would want to learn it in a better way, in a fun way.
Exactly. I completely agree with you. Okay, even back when I was a child and I was a student, I used to learn by teaching. So I used
Correct.
to take a very difficult concept and I used to learn it by myself, and then I used to go and teach my mother. So
Correct.
उससे मुझे practice भी हो जाती थी. Plus I used to think that okay, now my mother also knows something new. Or like if I've studied distillation, for example, sedimentation, I'll go and teach her that did you know that this activity that we have been performing in our homes or anywhere for that matter, we see sedimentation happening in real life in so many
Right.
places. But there are times when you know the concept but you don't know the name of the process. So I used
Right.
to go and teach my mother and I used to feel happy कि मैंने उनको concept बता दिया, process का नाम बता दिया, like that.
Correct.
Feeling of it's a winning feeling,
Correct.
plus it's an educative thing. So yeah, I completely agree with you. That is something that we can obviously do. And I also agree that scavenger hunt, the thing that you were talking about, उसमें it's not only fun, you're not only remembering the concept because it's linked to your the topic that you're talking about, but also you're living through the experience, the fun of chasing and trying to win, the competitive nature of students, वो भी अपीज हो जाता है. और एजुकेशन में आप जो कंटेंट पढ़ रहे हो, आपके एकेडमिक में जो कंटेंट है, वो भी आपका रिवाइज हो जाता है. सो इट्स बोथ द थिंग्स एट वंस. So I
Right.
think, yeah, these are very small, interesting activities that can be conducted on a very good day. Apart from that, like, what do you think parents can do about this? Like, teachers can obviously do all of this, but parents और क्या क्या कर सकते हैं?
So the best way would be to stop comparing. सबसे पहली चीज तो we can start from home. Every learning starts from home. So the first and foremost thing what parents can stop doing is identifying what their child is good at. बिकॉज हर बच्चा हर चीज में अच्छा नहीं हो सकता. सो इफ दे एस्पायर, मेरा बेटा डॉक्टर बनेगा, इंजीनियर बनेगा, सो वी हैव कम टू फार फ्रॉम दैट पूरा जमाना दैट मेरा बच्चा ऐसे नहीं करेगा, उसको जो पसंद है वो करेगा. सो
Hmm.
that is one thing parents need to adopt now. They need to understand, that every student is different. They all have, special characteristics. They all are good at something. And just helping them in figuring out, what you can do to pursue that domain, you are interested in, or how you can make a
Hmm.
profession out of it. That is the job of a
Right.
parent, because they are the
Hmm.
first person to know their child. Apart from the world, they are the first one, my child is good at this. Now it's my responsibility how I can push that, so that that person can become better at it. So as a parent, you need to do that. Apart from that, I'm really glad, I see parents nowadays, uh, like their children of 5 to 6 years, like small kids. Parents have started, pushing them to different extracurricular activities,
Right.
dance class, music class, badminton classes, all the classes, because when you prep students from very early age and you push them into extracurricular activities, their mind develops in that way, that they're
Right.
ready for challenges. And especially if you push a child, into sports. So sportsman is a, it's a term where you do not feel bad when you defeat.
Right.
It gives you a it gives you, sense that you want to do better next time, better than
Hmm.
your opponent. So children, like children now should be, sent to more, they should be pushed into, sports or different activities, so that
Hmm.
they also develop that kind of mindset, that it's okay, if I fail this time I can do better. And also to be happy, for the winners. That is something you only learn through sports, which I have seen so far.
Right.
you know yeah, to have that sportsmanship, spirit, to be happy for others, which is very difficult. We feel good, but we're not genuinely happy. So that is something, you
Right.
get when you involve yourself into something like that. So that's one thing parents can start doing. And I see a lot of, parents even pushing their students into tuition classes, group coaching. It's good, it's, I understand, because everybody's working these days. So it's like
Hmm.
lack of time actually, makes you do something like that. But at the same time, sit with your child, often, very often, understand,
Hmm.
where, what concepts, what subjects they don't feel confident about. As a parent,
Hmm.
what you can contribute in that, like how your coaching is going. Because
Hmm.
अभी का टाइम ऐसा है दैट इफ माय स्टूडेंट इज नॉट डूइंग गुड, तो हम टीचर को फोन लगा देंगे, मैम आप सही से करा नहीं रहे हो क्या, अच्छा मेरा बच्चा ध्यान नहीं देता है क्या, ट्यूशन स्किप कर रहा है. वी शुड नॉट बी जस्ट, थिंकिंग अबाउट इट. बच्चे के साथ बैठ के हम
Right.
बात भी कर सकते हैं दैट, where exactly is the problem, do you want me to,
Hmm.
help you in studies. So these kind of things can start from home. And we know
Hmm.
when they find that shelter, that they find that safety net, कि भाई I have somebody's back, it's just not my exams, but I know my parents will understand that I am good at this, they want me to do better at this. So that's a part of life, I believe. It all starts from, home. So that's what
Right.
parents can do for their children.
Right. So I completely agree with you that sometimes you all, or like, you don't need anything else apart from the safety net. Like, you all always want the back of your parents, even if I fail, even if I don't have any, interest in a subject, but I'm just studying it because I have to study, and I'm not able to communicate it to anybody like my parents or my teachers, then it's a very difficult situation for this student. Like, for example, back when I was a child, I used to be very bad in history, बिकॉज मुझे डेट्स याद नहीं रहती थी. तो आई यूज टू बी वेरी स्केर्ड ऑफ द हिस्ट्री पेपर, बिकॉज आई न्यू दैट एवरीथिंग दैट आई एम स्टडिंग विल गो गेट जम्बल्ड अप, और मुझे बहुत बैड मार्क्स मिलेगा, एंड देन द रेपकशंस वुड बी वेरी बैड. सो आई यूज टू ट्राई एंड स्किप द हिस्ट्री टेस्ट,
Right.
कि नहीं देते. So, apart from that, if nowadays we think that students can find a parent or someone or teacher to talk to, कि मुझे ये subject नहीं पसंद है, and that person can help in, making the subject easier or making it more interesting for the student, then it's obviously a win-win for both, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and we also are getting a few comments from the teachers. So Kranti ma'am is also saying that peer learning and sharing is a very fruitful, it helps in the development of
Correct.
a student, right?
True.
Okay. So apart from all of this, what else do you think? Okay, we have another comment from Kenil ma'am, Kenil Sukori. don't
Okay.
compare your learning rate with your friends. It adds more pressure and panic attacks. Absolutely true, ma'am. Panic attack has become a very prevalent activity right before the exam. So even on the day of examination, you will like see people panicking, walking around in
They would
stress,
faint. Yeah.
behaving very differently, and getting panic attacks in the hall itself was a very prevalent activity. It has happened to so many of us, right? So
I've
if we
seen
now,
my friends.
yeah,
I've seen my friends, they would faint down because I've seen somebody, from far away that, during the examination, they would fall off from the bench, resulting in
mhm,
because they were very anxious, that they couldn't write anything. So, like,
yeah,
we have all, seen it during the exam. So we can understand, what might be going through in their mind, when they were appearing for the exams, because there was so much of stress already going on, that is the
mhm,
outcome, that they couldn't even appear for it.
exactly. So
Yes.
now we'll move on and we'll see how we can make it better. This prevalent situation that we are dealing with, how we can improve it.
Yeah, so we can always start with, as I told you, like, as a new culture, in educational sector, what we can start doing is incorporating all the fun activities, during, before the exams, and already as a part
Mhm.
of a curriculum. So I believe, as a part of syllabus, they can start doing that, incorporating fun activities for students, to make entire, learning as a fun for them. They should not,
Mhm.
feel like a burden, because
Right.
when you teach them certain things in a certain way, that stays with them. So for example,
Mhm.
you already tell them that, ये portion बहुत difficult होगा, तुमको पहले से prepare करना पड़ेगा. That already leaves a different kind of impression in the mind, that this
Right.
topic मैं कभी नहीं कर पाऊंगी. एंड दैट हैपेंड विथ मी अर्लियर. मुझे अगर मेरी मैम ने बोल दिया है कि ये सम या तो ये क्वेश्चन ऐसे आने वाला है, बहुत अच्छे से प्रिपेयर करके जाना, एंड आई नो मैं वही नहीं कर पाऊंगी अटेम्प्ट, एंड आई नेवर यूज टू डू इट, बिकॉज दैट वॉज ऑलरेडी टोल्ड टू मी इन अ डिफरेंट वे, दैट आई कुड नेवर परसीव इट, कि मैं उसको फिर मैंने वैसे ही समझा है. So that is one thing, we can stop doing, we can stop putting things in a very negative way, because that leaves a very negative impression onto the
Right.
minds of students. And differently, as I said, start incorporating these different activities, not just, but these, but there could be fun assignments, projects, art projects, students can start doing together, where
Right.
that would require them to sit together, discuss about few topics, as a teacher previously mentioned, that they can start doing peer learning together, where
Mhm.
everybody can start preparing for different topics, and how they can present it. Schools have started doing it, that's a very good thing, but like more schools can adopt, presentations, because students will be exposed, to the world, because a lot of students have, stage fear. They can't go on the
Right.
stage, so that is something, you can start doing. So giving weightage to these things equally makes, your pressure, it actually, uh, leaves the pressure from your shoulder, it just takes it off from the shoulder, that exams are the only deciding factor. So, just
Okay.
introducing new things, giving weightage to different exercise in the school, presentations, seminars, conducting assignments, that also give them, equal weightage. So they understand, okay, I can be good at this as well, if not just my exams. So there could be different ways which we can be introduced.
Yeah, I actually came up with a very humorous name when you said that. The moment we are told that a question is difficult, the first thing that comes to our mind is the first impression of the question has gone.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, so that can obviously be called like the first impression, right? Because a concept, jesse for example, when I was back in school, the first thing that I was
Right.
told before I was introduced to calculus was calculus is very difficult.
Right.
And that
Trigonometry
had
for that
such a,
matter.
yeah, trigonometry. So that
Correct.
as a whole had such an impact on me that I couldn't sit with calculus. I tried to avoid it for as long as I could. सारे
Correct.
चैप्टर्स खत्म कर लो बट कैलकुलस मत करो. It was like that. When the
Yeah.
moment I started calculus, I couldn't get anything. I was so scared. I was not able to understand, even though the topics weren't as difficult as they seemed to be. But
Right.
it was a preconceived notion that just went and sat in my brain, refusing to
Correct.
leave. So yeah, that obviously happens. I do agree. And apart from that, what do you think can be done? Like, activities are obviously a very good source of, making things easier. Like practical examples, for example, like, even though we are often said that we learn trigonometry, we learn Pythagoras theorem, but we don't apply them in real life. But
Correct.
do you think it is right or it is not right? Like, what is your opinion on it?
I believe there could the lot of things can change in how our education structure has been framed. Because
Hmm.
I genuinely don't see a point of putting topics as subjects. But then we cannot just generalize few topics, because there are people who would turn out to be engineers, where the
Hmm.
maths and the calculation would be applied. A lot of people would pursue doing into the medical field, where the chemistry, physics,
Hmm.
biology would be applicable. So there are subjects which can be incorporated in a way that a specific type of people who wishes to pursue that, right, can
Right.
do that. And also,
Hmm.
apart from that, like for example, when you talk about India, it's more of we see
Hmm.
a lot of doctors, engineers, right? That's a very frequently repeated professions that we see, right?
Right.
CA, accountant. अगर बच्चे ने कॉमर्स किया है तो सीए में ही जाना है, बच्चे ने साइंस
Right.
किया है अगर बायोलॉजी ली तो डॉक्टर बनना है, अगर फिजिक्स लिया तो इंजीनियर बनना है. So this is as you said, एक decided है, field है हमारे लिए. But when you go to the different countries, for example, if I take example of UK, it's an unconventional industry. वहाँ पे लोग, there people are pursuing fashion, people are pursuing
Hmm.
photography, people are into different sectors. They're giving courses over there. But if you try and find
Yeah.
colleges in India, they would not be having these different kinds of subjects where students can
Hmm.
pursue it, because we still have that certain kind of already set framed curriculum since school, that
Right.
these are the only professions you can pursue. But that should be
Exactly.
changed. Now I encounter people who are doctors by education, but they're corporate trainers as their profession right now. So
Hmm.
everything changes when you understand what you want to do, what you want to deliver to the people. So there are
Right.
different ways you can start doing. So I feel that certain subjects, yes, there needs to be there, because basic things need to be taught from an early age. But then
Hmm.
from an early age, you can decide where your child is more inclined towards. And that's how
Hmm.
there should also be a set of divisions maybe in the curriculum that can be
Hmm.
introduced in the school, that students for one standard can pursue this kind of subject to understand if that is what they
Right.
would like to pursue in future. So certain kind of things can be introduced as well on school level, in the curriculum itself, where certain
Hmm.
weightages would be given to different unconventional field of studies, where
Right.
they would be more interested in, and they would understand if that is what they would like to pursue in future. So that would just open up the it would just expand the overall horizon, to
Hmm.
where the sky is the limit, and you never know what you would like to do. Even if you're studying something, you would end up doing something else. So that
Yeah.
needs to be cultivated in the school culture itself.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, niche domains need to be uh, empowered these days. Like, for example, if a child is more interested in studying music or arts, for that matter, are not as uh, they are always compared to others who are studying physics, for example. So if I'm a
Correct.
child and I want to pursue dance or arts, I will be compared to someone who's studying physics and want to become an astrophysicist. And even though our domains are so different and so vast in its own in itself, they are always seen at a higher and lower angle. So
Correct.
one is given more preference, the other is given lesser preference. So that's the issue that keeps coming. Yeah,
Correct.
apart from that, I think we have a question from Kranti teacher. I'll just quickly see it. So, how could be the concentration regarding a slow learner and a hyperactive child in a regular classroom practice? So, I think uh, sir here or ma'am here wants to understand how the concentration is different in a hyperactive child from that of a slow learner child.
Okay. So, as a teacher, I would just, suggest that as a teacher, it's very difficult to understand because you have a class of 35, right? And all the pupils have their own speed and pace, to understand and learn things. So, initially, when you're introduced to a class and you pick up a subject with them and this is your class and you'll be teaching them this particular subject, that's when, after a few classes, you can understand and determine, how a student is, taking up things. Or for instance, you
Right.
can start doing practical sessions with them. For example, you can once you have completed a topic, you can ask students to give their feedback, like what they have understood in the concept. So from that
Right.
also you would understand that what is the level of understanding of a student. And then you understand, these are five students out of the lot who are not that confident with the subject, who are not able to deliver back what they have learned so far, or they're not that confident presenting the subject. So you would be able to locate their weaker areas, and as a teacher you would be able to identify those weak sections. And then you can take those five bunch of people in a different way, so you can start
Right.
implementing different strategies that would work for them. Because sometimes some student, for example, I have always been been students who would always express whatever I have been learning in the school. But at the same time, my best friend, who actually learned better than me, but she would never be able to express back what she had learned in the class. That's just because
Right.
I'm an extrovert kind of a person. So somebody who's quite quiet, introvert, who's shy, may not be able to deliver back, because everybody's watching them in the classroom. So as a teacher, you would identify those kind of students, and then there's a way to deal with them. You would always, and if there's a weak learner, that's okay. You can always take them people. For example, there's a lunch break, you can sit with them, because they are facing difficulty with your subject. You can sit with them, you can try and understand where if there's a particular topic they're struggling with, or the entire subject they can't seem to understand, and you can have a one-on-one conversation with them. Because
Right.
nowadays it's very important that you become approachable. Because if you have an aura that people can approach you, then students would come up to you and ask queries. They would want to discuss it with you. And then you can also initiate those conversations with them and ask them if there is something you can't ask in a full classroom. Then we would sit maybe in the lunch break, 5-10 minutes, or after the school time, if we have a day's time, 5-10 minutes, so that I can help you with something. So that's a way how we can actually differentiate between students who are fast paced learners and slow paced learners.
Right. I agree with you that it's very important for teachers or parents to have an inviting aura, because most of the time the problem is that the child has so much on his or her mind in itself. They are so worried, they are so anxious, scared, all kinds of emotions running wild in their mind, and they do not know how to express. Even if they are a slow learner or a fast learner, if they are not able to say it or express that they are learning it or not able to grasp the concept, then it is not practically possible for anybody to understand if he or she has understood. Right.
Correct.
So which is why I think you're right that it is very important for teachers to give some special attention to students who are lesser active, or slower learner in comparison to the
Correct.
others. Because even though they might turn out to be a genius, like Newton, who knows,
Correct.
right? So yeah, it's very important to understand the different kinds of people that are around them, and especially since they are growing up, they are very new to everything. It's very, very important to take special care of them and pay special attention to them at some time. So yeah,
Right.
apart from that, uh, yeah, right. So we will move on and we will talk about how important motivation is for schools. So what do you think here? How important is it?
Also here, Naga, like when we're talking about motivation, so the first thing that comes up to my mind is actually pushing more of such sessions that we are doing right now, on school level.
Right.
introducing samvads, speaker sections, where every month one speaker would be invited, in the school, in the auditorium, where everybody would be attending it. So these
Mm,
kind of sessions actually help students, just to not just to focus on what they're doing every day, but they get to learn a lot of things, because that
mm,
speaker would be coming with his his or her own experiences, and they would have so much
mm.
to contribute. So we would always start from there, and
Right.
introducing such sessions, and also if we have to talk about speaker or special guest sections in the school, we can also
Mm,
start doing it in a way. For example, there would be somebody who would be a physics genius, and for higher
right.
secondary, they could invite somebody. So all the physics aspirants, who wishes to go ahead in that field, they can attend those sessions. That would just give
Right.
them some insightful information, what or how they can do differently in this field, so that they do well off, they become really good at what they're learning. So these kind
Right.
of sessions can be introduced, and this actually instantly gives some kind of motivation to students, that I would like to reach at this level, that someday somebody would invite me. So for instance,
Mm,
ask me right now how happy I am to be here, because I get a chance to share what I've learned so far, and it just it makes it a point that you want to do much, so that you're in a position to give it back to the society. So
right.
that kind of motivational segments can be arranged in school, seminars can be arranged. Principals, I don't see a lot of principals interacting a lot with students, but that is something that can be, because I see principals have a lot of things to do in the school, but they are always
Mm,
active with teachers. But they can also start taking some kind of feedback session with students, what kind of things
right.
they would like to have during the classroom. Teachers can
Mm,
start giving feedback, that we have planned something for our students, like how can we start about it. So these kind of things can be
right.
done in school these days now, just so that in today's day and age, it's very difficult, just to focus on what we are learning theoretically. It's really important
Right.
to show them the or expose them to the real world, because I know whatever I've learned till date has never helped me the day I stepped out of my college. Those books has not helped me to become the person I am today. But yes, the learning
Right.
that I've acquired from my teachers, the learning that I've received
Mhm.
from my parents, my friends, that has
Right.
helped me become the person I am today. So that really
Mm,
contributes. So those kind of things should be there for young minds, because they learn faster and they adapt really quick. So those kind of
right.
things should be cultivated at very young age.
So yeah, I agree with you. But like, if you're talking about motivation, and you just spoke about very specific subject specific motivational sessions or seminars related to some
Yeah,
topic, or something that is very centric, something very peculiar, to be precise. So
right.
if you think of any one topic that comes to your mind, what would it be? Like, if I have to arrange a seminar for my students, what is the one thing that I should keep in mind while arranging for one?
So if I have to suggest you, I would suggest, making people communicating better. So for instance,
Okay.
as I told you, there would be a set of students in class who have learned better than the rest of the
Hmm.
people, but they won't
Hmm.
be in a position to, explain themselves, because they do
Hmm.
not know how to, start expressing. So
Right.
I would emphasize, in today's time, it's very important that you can convey or express yourself in the right manner,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
it is perceived in the same way by the receiver. So it's very
Hmm.
important that you start conducting more so sessions and communication, that how to give it back or deliver you what you're trying to do. So those
Hmm.
kind of things can be done, by, as I told you, classroom activities, presentation, something
Hmm.
like that. You give out topics to students, or you ask them to explain a certain topic what they have just understood. So that would just and make them understand how to present themselves, because in today's time, how we present yourself is really important. So that's what I would suggest. If that's a topic I wanted to suggest, that's something, how you can communicate yourself better.
Right. So, like, even though communication is very important, what other things do you think should be, added?
Apart from communication, I also believe that, as I told you, not just focusing on what we have learned, like, like where it is going to take us, what actions we can take. not just the
Hmm.
input, but not just focus on the output, but also what input we are taking in and how it is going to help us. That is
Yeah.
something we can start focusing on, right? So because I believe in today's time it's very difficult, to make people understand that, not just the outcome. Because ये मैंने देखा है, this is like a, it's a notion in everybody that uh, unless until you have not given the goal or desired outcome, you have not done well. But it should not be, taken in that
Hmm.
way. Rather, you should, push people in understanding that uh, even if you have done your part, you have done your bit, and that should also be acknowledged, right? So that is also very important, that you push people to understand, push students to understand that you've done your part, and maybe you've not done better. It's always another time that you can do. So that is something, you can start developing in today's mind, because that's really important.
Right. So it, apart from like communication, you're trying to say that, spreading mental health awareness is very
Correct.
important among students, because most of the time the entire problem is being scared and being unable to control their own emotions that are running through themselves. So yeah, I agree with you. It's very very important to, help them navigate through their own feelings first, and then try and resolve any other issues,
Right.
right? So yeah, I think that was a lot of conversation that we had regarding stress and how to manage stress, all of that, right? And we have almost come to the end of our session. So thank you teachers for joining us. And before we break the session, we would like to tell you that we will be sharing a link with you on the platform bio, and on your on the comment section, that you need to fill out. So this link is an attendance link. So since you have participated and since you were there with us for so long, you will have to fill it out, and we will send you a certificate of participation. And for that, right. And like we all know, the guest we had here was here. And the if you can all see the Instagram handle on the slide, right? And you can connect back with Hia. If you have any other things to understand about communication, you can ask her, or you can connect with her, right? Hia, would you like to add something?
Yes, like before, we can sign off from this. Just the only
Right,
thing I would suggest, because we have a lot of teachers, who have joined us today.
right,
I know that, you are doing your bit in educating students, to the best of your knowledge. But alongside, I see a lot of, these days children are going through depression because, they do not have
right,
anybody to talk to. So
right.
that's also something, teachers, I believe, as I was, addressing my concern for being approachable. Here's,
Mm.
what you can do, start doing. Because if you are in a position where, your students are comfortable with you, approach them, maybe in a personal situation, if they're comfortable with you, and try to understand. Because, sometimes they are going through a lot of things back at home, and, also being pressured for exams, scoring well. It all, just comes together, and it just, boils down to them getting into depression, or not just being, there, right out
Right.
there. So it's good, if you can keep interacting with your students and be there for them, not just, as educator, but also, as a friend they can reach out to if they are struggling with something.
Right. I completely agree with you. It's very, very important to have someone to talk to or be able to share your issues and problems with. Because the sooner you're communicating and the sooner you're able to chart out your problems, the better it is for everybody, not only for you,
Right.
but also for your, surroundings and your parents and your friends. Right. So, with that,
Right.
I think we have come to the end of the session. And like I said, we have shared you the link for the attendance form. You will be able to, fill it up, and you will be receiving a certificate of participation for this event. So, yeah, that was that. It was amazing talking to you here. And thank you for connecting with us, giving us your time, preparing so much
Thank you
of
so much, Anaga.
information. Yeah, telling us so much about stress and everything else, right? And yeah, so with that, we will sign off for today. Thank you teachers as well for participating, talking to us for hearing all of our information. I hope you had a wonderful time, because we all did. Like, I also did. I had a very nice time talking with you here, and all our teachers. And yeah,
Yeah, it was such a insightful conversation. It was very interactive. So I really
yeah,
hope that our viewers also enjoyed it like as much as we did. So and I
yeah.
really hope that they are going to take away something really beneficial from this. So and thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much, Guru Shala. The platform itself is doing such a great job in revolutionizing how we perceive education now. So thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.